Right. Assalamu alaikum. This is the part 8, and here basically are the fiqh rules. And there are a lot of books, alhamdulillah, that Allah Ta'ala has given us of the ulama that have done excellent work. Sheikh Abu Bakr Fakir and Sheikh Amin Fakir's books are very, very well written. And what I did was to look at the works that have been done and then summarize it. So if one looks at the wudu, then you look at the shurut of the wudu, which means the stipulations of the wudu. And now, for the wudu, in actual fact, be fine, to be correct, etc., there must be sanity. The person is in Islam. The person must be clean from all minor impurities. Absence of menses, which is like the female's menstruation, and childbirth bleeding as well. And then there must also be the time that the wudu is being taken. Person must be mature for the stipulations of the shurut of the wudu. And there must be necessary resources such as water, soil, etc., sand, clean, particular for wudu if it is like with tayammum. Then what makes a wudu valid? The fara'id. There must be a niyyah. You must wash the face, the arms, the hair, the feet, and it must be the sequence. That is not the fara'id, and there must be continuity. You mustn't stop and then go do some, have a meal, etc. It must be continuity. So that is the basics of fara'id. It's like the washing of the face, the arms, the hair, the feet. The other features that we know, which we also use, is the sunnah parts of the wudu. Now, what are the conditions that underpin the wudu? It makes it possible. It must be clean water. There must be no wax or fat on your skin of the parts of that you're taking wudu. The vessel must be clean from which you get your water, and the place where you have your wudu must be clean. What are the optional parts of the sunnah parts of the wudu? You must say the basmala. You must say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim 3 times. The hands, if you wash your hands, that is a sunnah. Rinsing the mouth is a sunnah. Rinsing the nose is a sunnah. Washing the ears, and even washing the right side first, and then the left side. That is also a sunnah. To run your water through your fingers, or run your fingers through your beard, rubbing the water onto your parts of your body. Not to talk while you take wudu. No interruptions between your wudu parts. Washing each part 3 times. Wiping the neck is also sunnah, and dua after the wudu is also sunnah. Mustahab. It's loved, or it's desired or liked. That's the word mustahab means loved or desired. Now, what breaks the wudu? The discharge of urine or feces or a wind, the loss of consciousness, such as falling asleep, sleep losing balance. In other words, when you fall asleep, when you fall over, then you break your wudu. If you fall asleep but you are still upright, then you still have wudu, especially if you're sitting straight on something, then you still have wudu. Emission of semen, touching of the skin on skin of a strange woman or your wife, and outpouring of blood or pus, laughter during salah, and the menses if person becomes like hayd during menstruation, during salah or whatever, or wudu. So what does not break the wudu is touching family members, and vomiting does not break the wudu. Now this is the basics of the rules relating to wudu. Now let's look at the ghusl. When you have to ghusl, when do we have to ghusl? Meaning a full bath now. When you need the ghusl is after sex, after menses, after childbirth bleeding, When a person has died, you must bath a person. On embracing Islam, it is necessary to bath, and after touching a corpse, you must bath. So those are the need. When you need a ghusl, you must. These are the times when you need it. Then what are the optional baths? Aidan, meaning the 2 Eids, that's optional baths, a sunnah. The Jum'ah bath is a sunnah bath. The Ramadan bath is the Ihram bath. It's all sunnah baths. Optional baths. Then the wajibats, or the essentials of a bath, is clean water, niyyah, and the whole body must be wet. What is the procedure? The procedure of bathing, of ghusl: wash your hands with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wash your mouth 3 times. Wash your nose 3 times. Wash your private parts. Then soap the whole body. Perform the wudu, not necessary in performing a fard ghusl, and let the water flow over the whole body. First make your niyyah and pour over from the head, then the right hand side, then the front and the back, and then the left shoulder side, front and back. Now make the dua after the wudu, facing the qibla, and cover your aura with, and some people use just a basic cotton cloth or whatever. Note well, the salah, the tawaf, the recital of the Quran, entering the masjid, the masajid is the plural for masjid, needs cleanliness from janaba. You can't go into the mosque when you are in a state of sexual impurity, ceremonial major impurity due to sexual activity. You cannot enter the masjid, and you cannot recite Quran or salah or tawaf, etc. So that covers basics of the ghusl. Now the tayammum, which is the substitute for water. Special circumstances where you cannot use water, or when no water is available, or you have a sickness and an allergy towards water, or there's a water shortage, or there's a threat of attack on the water sources, or a traveler where water is not easily accessible. In that case, you can take tayammum. So if you look at the fiqh rules, or the fiqh advice that the imams have worked together, is to make things easy for us. So we have certain differences, but all is the aim of making it easy for us to make sure that inshallah we are clean and ready to get into the spiritual world. Because when we want to enter the spiritual world, we have to be clean, because the spiritual world is clean. You can't get into that. It's like you need a passport, to travel. So the passport for traveling into the spiritual world is cleanliness. And we know from this Christian point of view, it's always, and we've also learned from the Christian terms like cleanliness is next to godliness. But that is what the Quran also talks about. And remember the messages of the Quran and the Torah and the Injil, it's all one message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, different prophets. So what is the validity? What is the requirements to make a tayammum valid? Okay, the special circumstances. When there must be special circumstances. Then dusty or pure sand or rocks you can use, and that also gives us the indication that Allah knows, and Allah has taught us that by rubbing sand or rubbing rocks, etc., it has electrons, it has parts that you're actually rubbing off, and so you actually can clean yourself, because your body is also has got electrons that can be rubbed off, and so you can clean yourself, etc. You must have a niyyah, and it must be done at the proper time. The removal of the dust, striking the hands by removing of the dust before you rub the face with the palm of the hands once, rubbing the hand and the arms up to the elbows once, and the proper order of this. Now you don't do your feet when you do your tayammum. Right, what is the method? You say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, you make your niyyah, and then with the spread of the fingers you strike the dust or the stone in your hands and rub it all over your face with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim lightly. Strike twice. The second time you strike, you rub your hands on your arms, and rub the right arm first and then the left. Now what invalidates the tayammum. Everything which invalidates the wudu, in other words, what breaks the wudu, breaks the tayammum. And whenever there is an availability of water, immediately tayammum becomes, you cannot use tayammum if there's water is available again. Or if you become healthy from your injury or whatever, or your illness, then you can't make tayammum again. Becoming better after being ill. Those are basically the requirements for the wudu. Let's look at the salah, the essentials of the salah. There must be a niyyah, the takbiratul ihram, that is just saying Allahu Akbar, the standing, which is the qiyam, the qira'ah of the Quran, the reciting of the Quran, the reciting of the Fatiha, the ruku, the bending, the sujood, the prostration, the tashahhud, which is at-tahiyyatu, the taslim, that we say assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and the sequence, and also the continuity, that is also part of the essentials of the salah, and then the waqt, the exact time of the salah. Then it is adaan, you say adaan in your niyyah if it's in the time, and you say qada'an when it's out of the time. And it's advised to try not to do your salahs on qada'an or out of a specific time. Then important is you pause between every movement. That is the fara'id, so the essential parts of the salah. Then the optional part of the salah, lifting up your hands to say takbiratul ihram, to say Allahu Akbar. That is optional, sunnah. Putting your right hand over your left hand for men. putting open right hand over the left for women. All other azkar, remembrances that you make, that is all sunnah. Selecting to recite another ayah from the Quran after the Fatiha, that's also sunnah. Then the knees must first hit the ground when you prostrate, not your hands first. Your knees must touch the ground before you go into sujood. Then men keeping the thigh away from the body. In other words, you mustn't put your chest on your thighs. And for women, adjoin the belly and the thighs. They close that part of the body in sujood. And the salawat on Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's also an optional feature of the salah. Now what corrupts the salah? Uttering a word of speaking, even in forgetfulness. If you say a word in speaking, it corrupts your salah. Making more than 3 moves, not prescribed in the salah. Turning your chest out of the qibla, and covering private parts or parts that needs to be covered during salah. You see, sometimes you get people who salah and then their pants is so short. Then when they go out, part of their bum is sticking out, so that breaks your salah. Minor impurities are released, such as pee or whatever. Then laughing. If you laugh, it breaks your wudu as well. If you smile, it just breaks your salah. Okay, so that basically covers the needs for the salah. Let's look at the fasting. And now at this point in time, 2019, we are going to fast soon, inshallah. So, fasting, essentials of fasting, you must have a niyyah. And you must be freedom from all forms of bleeding. Females, haid, nifas, childbirth, bleeding. You must be free from all bleeding to be able to fast. And then the time, there's a waqt, there's a Ramadan, there's a time for fasting. Okay, so the acts that corrupt fasting: eating, getting an injection, drinking, deliberate inhalation of smoke, accumulation of saliva and then swallowing it, swallowing phlegm or anything coming from below the throat, swallowing food left between the teeth, failing to withdraw from marital sex when dawn has broken. In other words, we're still busy and then the man adhans, and then it breaks your fast or your ability to fast for the day. Sexual discharge, if that happens during the salah, during the fasting, then obviously your day for fasting is lost, and then you must repay that day. The atonement Atonement, that's kafara, for fast. Absolute deliberate eating during the month of Ramadan with no valid reason. Having sex intentionally during the fast of Ramadan, and for that the punishment or the repayment of that is 60 days for each day that you do you break your fast. And on purpose, you have to pay in 60 days for each day, or you have to feed 60 poor people for every day. That is only on men, not on women. A break in the 60 days brings on a new 60-day start. So as you can see, it's very, very strict in terms of breaking your fast on purpose or not fasting if you can fast. And this is not because Allah wants to make a joke out of us. It's because these are acts of the salah, etc., that purifies us and raises us up in levels of consciousness and raises us up into darajat towards the Jannah. And so we have to be careful, otherwise we drop into lower levels. And may Allah protect us from that, inshallah. Not well. If the next Ramadan arrives without you having paid back your qada in the last Ramadan, in other words, you have fasting debt, then you must pay a fidya. Feed a poor person a plate of food for each owing day. Now, what doesn't break your fast is forgetful eating. If you forget, then you just eat, but you forgot that you're fasting. Sexual discharge in sleeping does not break your wudu. In involuntary vomit, if you vomit involuntary, not voluntary, that breaks your fast. That doesn't break your fast. If you're involuntary, you just vomit automatically, but you don't force your vomit. It doesn't break your fast. And swallow clean saliva automatically, not with purpose. I left out something here. The photocopy didn't take it, which breaks the fasting. Okay, so I'll have to check that up again. Inshallah, we'll get to it. But I mean, you can also do some research and just make sure you fill up whatever isn't there, which is a good thing for us to do. Then the zakah. The stipulation of the zakah, when is zakah necessary? The wealth that lies unused and is not part of the necessities for a year, for a full year. Dwellings, tools, books, armor, weapons, furniture, cattle for use, money, etc., for 1 year uninterrupted, is liable for 2.5% divine tax to be paid to the poor Muslims only. You can't pay zakah to non-Muslims. You can pay sadaqah to them, but not zakah. The payer must be a Muslim and he must be free. In other words, a slave that is a Muslim does not pay zakah, and a non-Muslim does not pay zakah. They pay another kind of tax if they are in a Muslim country. When during the year the wealth is interrupted in below minimum, right? Below the minimum, and the nisab, then the zakah need falls away on the full amount. The zakah is only on that unused, that state wealth that is not needed for anything, and it's just there for a full year. Then you must pay zakah on that, whether it is gold or silver or jewelry or wealth or money, etc. Now, it must be accompanied by a niyyah for the zakah. You must say this is zakah in your heart. The recipient need not know that it is zakah. So you don't have to tell the person. You don't have to tell the person that you give it to that it is zakah. Now the payment. Movables may be used to pay tax on gold and silver, or if paid in kind, it should be a portion in weight, not in value. No zakah. Oh yes, no zakah on jewels and gold which is not used for trade. So if you don't use the jewels and gold for trade, then you don't pay zakah on it. Who gets zakah? The poor, the destitute, the slave, the debtor, the mujahid, the person who fights in the cause of Allah. Cut off from taking part. The mujahid cut off from taking part. If he couldn't take part, stranded pilgrim, a wayfarer who is stranded, and the zakah collectors. They are the people who get the zakah. Do not pay to infidels. You cannot pay to people who don't believe. Not for buildings and institutions. So, okay, that is something we're not so aware of. The zakah must go to people. And then again, I must start something. So just check out there what you cannot pay zakah on, for that which I perhaps must start there. And very good books would be Sheikh Amin Fakir's book on the Al-Mufidah, very, very detailed. And then you get other books that have been written by ulama. But this gives you just the basics. Now look at the Hajj. Now the Hajj, the stipulation of the Hajj, you must be a Muslim, you must be mature, you must be sane. In other words, if you're not well, you mind-wise, it's not fault on you. You must be free. The waqt of Hajj must be there must be transport. You must have provision. There must be safety. You must be healthy. And you must have a mahram if you're a woman, a person who you cannot marry, that will look after you, or your husband. Required for the Hajj is a niyyah. You must have ihram, the talbiyah. You must labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Being on Arafah is a must till sunset. Then halting or stopping at Muzdalifah at the appearance of dawn of Eid al-Adha. Then casting the pebbles at the Jamaratul Aqaba, the big Jamarat, cutting of your hair, and Tawaful Ifada, and the sa'i. Then the cutting the hair and overnight on Mina. I double wrote that. Throwing the Jamarat. So that will be the first one, and then it will be the second one after the cutting of the hair. Throwing the Jamarat on the second day. Throw Jamarat, the Tawaful Wida, and the sequence. That's important. Those are the features. So you cut your hair at the end of your sa'i for the far part of your Hajj. You cut your hair. So let's look at now the Tawaf of Wida, which is basically where you are going to the farewell, and the sequence is important. And now when one does your Hajj, etc., it must be in ihram. When you are in ihram, do not use scent. Don't dye your hair. Don't cover the head for men. Cut hair before the required time. You can't cut your hair before the required time. You cannot scratch yourself. You cannot cut your nails. You cannot have sex during the time of ihram. Ihram is a state of absolute spiritual height, It's like being in the presence of Allah, put it that way. And so you are absolutely clean. And then you sacrifice an animal if you did any of the knots. It's a sacrifice is required of an animal if you did the knots. In other words, if you did something wrong. Types of pilgrimage. You get the ifrad, the Hajj first, and then the Umrah. Then the Qiran, the Ihram for Hajj and Umrah together. Then the Tamattu, which is first Umrah during the months of Hajj. So that is the different types of Hajj. Then a good Hajj rewards us with sinlessness as a baby. So it was just the basics of the fiqh that I put together. Inshallah, I hope it will give you an opportunity to go deeper into it, inshallah. But remember, your niyyah is important. And the niyyah in the heart is the fard part, and the niyyah that expressed is the sunnah part. But it's important when you make your niyyah properly, then alhamdulillah, Allah helps you. Everything else just become automatic. The soul knows, or the ruh knows what is right. The niyyah is important. May Allah help us and accept our work, inshallah.